Hello, Code for Compassion community. I'm really delighted with what you're doing, and I wish you greatest success for all of your coding. So I think I'll start by saying just very briefly the basis for why we ought to include all sentient beings within our circle of concern. And to me, in a way, that's fairly obvious, but unfortunately, not all people have seen it that way. I think that essentially pain is pain, whatever the being who can experience pain. Suffering is a bad thing. We experience suffering ourselves. We know it's a bad thing. And the badness of the suffering for ourselves does not depend in any way on the particular details of who we are, of what race or ethnicity we are, of what gender we are. Those are irrelevant. We accept to the badness of pain, so we reject racism and sexism. But many people still accept speciesism, the idea that somehow pain to a human is necessarily much more important morally than pain to a non-human. And humans have rights. You know, we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but animals don't. That seems to me to all just to be another example of a kind of a bias or prejudice we have towards our own kind. And I'm not denying that humans are different from other animals. Obviously they are in many respects. Despite you being called electric sheep, I don't know that any sheep do any coding or could do that.
We're working on it.
You're working on it, right? But we can. But that's not relevant to how bad it is if sheep suffer or any other sentient beings. So it's only the boundaries of sentience, I think, that can legitimately draw the boundaries of the moral circle. So that's the essential idea that in a nutshell that I put out in Animal Liberation more than 50 years ago, and now in Animal Liberation Now, the updated version that I produced in 2023. But as far as it applies to AI, I've only started thinking about that a few years ago, and I wanted to mention Yip Fai, the Hong Kong-based researcher who drew my attention to it some years ago. So Fai and I have published on AI and animals and tried to say it's important that AI not be biased against animals in the way that most humans are, and therefore in the ways that LLMs can absorb through the literature that they are trained on. And that we try to avoid this being sort of fixed and set for the future, that AI will embody those speciesist biases that I just mentioned. Yes, I think there are a very great variety of possible applications. I think it's really important to think about where AI is having an impact on animals. And also in the paper, we talked specifically about the fact that AI is getting into industrial animal agriculture or factory farming, because this is really the largest example of the immense amount of suffering that humans inflict on animals. We're talking about, in terms of just animals we raise and therefore control every aspect of their life and then kill and consume, we're talking about something like 200 billion animals raised and killed each year. That's vertebrate animals alone. I'm not counting the insect farming and so on, which would of course greatly enlarge that, and shrimp production too. But even if we just focus on vertebrate animals, because we think the case that they're sentient is stronger, although I don't think it's limited to vertebrates at all. But that's a vast amount, and AI is increasingly being used to control animals, and not necessarily for the welfare of the animals, but of course for the greater productivity of the whole system.
That's right, stocking capacities, etc.
Yes, that's right, which will just perpetuate it. But there are many different applications, and I know I saw the list of what the coders are doing at your event today, and I welcome them all. I think anything that is going to have a positive impact on animals, as well as getting people to think about what AI can do for animals, and in the broader area of conservation as well, is clearly important. So these are all important projects that people are working on, and I hope that this event will just be the beginning of something that will happen frequently and regularly, and will spread to even more people. I know you got more people showing up for this than you expected, but I hope the potential number is greater still. Right?
Which is by no means a bad thing. Thank you very much for those words. You actually segued my final question, which is, what would you like to see over the next 10 to 15 years in terms of how Code for Compassion and its brethren, its future iterations, its descendants will evolve in terms of, in terms of taking the fight further and making AI really a part of animal welfare rather than something that's harmful to animals?
Yeah, well, one of the things about AI is it's very difficult to predict where it's going to go, but I think that there are enormous possibilities, and I would like to see it be part of all of the work that is done for animals, because clearly it has the opportunity to benefit that, to show how we can work most effectively for animals, how we can take into account the largest number of sentient beings and benefit them. And as I said, in particular, I suppose I would like to see it develop alternatives to the harmful uses we now make of animals, of which, as I said, the largest is consuming the animal flesh or their products and controlling their lives from conception to slaughter. To me, that is the largest thing that I would really like to see come to an end, and there are many ways that might be doing that, making it more available to people, educating people more about how harmful this is to animals and to others, studying how best to do that most effectively to change people's consuming patterns. I'd like to see AI involved in all those activities.
Brilliant. Well, we have our orders, Peter. Thank you very much. We will go away. We will implement today, and we're very excited to share with yourself, with the world, what we've started here. We're going to do this again in London in a couple of months' time, and then, we will see where else across the world. I strongly agree with you. I think there is demand for this kind of intervention, this kind of event, and this kind of building, and that can only be a good thing. Thank you so much.